You found the Backup Wrap-Up, your go-to podcast for all things backup, recovery, and cyber recovery. In this episode, we wrap up Season 1 of Mr. Robot, and we tackle something that hits a little too close to home, I think, for all of us in the business, cyber attack notification. When the bad guys get in, what do you tell people? When do you tell them? Here's a kicker. What happens if you try to hide it? Well, we've all seen companies try to sweep things under the rug. It never works out. LastPass is a great example of what not to do. Prasanna and I break down why early and frank communication is not just the right thing to do, it's the smart business move. Don't be a cautionary tale. By the way, if you don't know who I am W. Curtis Preston, aka Mr. Backup, and I've been passionate about backup and recovery, and now cyber recovery, for over 30 years. Ever since I had to tell my boss that there were no backups of the production database that we just lost. I don't want that to happen to you, and that's why I do this. On this podcast, we turn unappreciated admins into cyber recovery heroes. This is the Backup Wrap-Up. Welcome to the show. Hi, I'm W. Curtis Preston, and I have with me today my twin, because we are wearing for the first time the same shirt. We have our mine's a little. I really got to move my mic so that it's not like that. But welcome to the show, Prasanna Malayandi.
Hey, Curtis. Oh my God, I'm so excited. When I got the shirt in the mail, I was like, yes, finally.
So
merch.
So the medium fits you okay?
Yes, the medium fits fine.
I was a little worried that this one was going to shrink. I forgot that I was supposed to wash it in cold, but it came out. It came out okay. So we're wearing the same matching branded shirt today.
So here's a question.
And by the way, those of you that if you don't know, you can watch us on YouTube. Just go to the Backup Wrap-Up on YouTube.
So if listeners wanted to pick up some merch, is that available?
Oh, come on. You know, I just ordered my first shirt.
Are you going to provide other designs? Are you going to have a contest for people? Are we going to have a Mr. Robot Backup Wrap-Up?
Mr. Robot. Yeah, that would probably be, a trademark violation.
Well, sorry, not Mr. Robot in particular, but something that talks about this series that we're just doing.
Oh, interesting.
Like we could also have one about like the cloud or disasters.
I will be open to comments, via the YouTube comments. That's it. We get some pretty decent comments on there. Yeah. So if people are looking for merch,
if you have a strong opinion on what we should do for T-shirts or designs or other merch, let us know. Yeah. We will figure out some way to get it out to you.
A Backup Wrap-Up Ember mug. Yeah. So, yeah.
But I was excited. Thank you, Curtis. I know I've been bugging you for years and years and years about this, so thank you, because it made my day.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that I can spread a little joy. And now here we are, wearing the same shirt for the first time. This is a history-breaking, groundbreaking, history-making. That's what I was trying to say. History-making episode. And speaking of making history, Mr. Robot Season 1 is coming to an end.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, I have to say it began. Well, what's that phrase? It ended with a bang, but with a whimper. Not with a bang, but with something. There's some phrase there. That's kind of like how I felt about the season finale is this episode, and so we decided to cover a topic that we didn't cover from a previous episode. And because
it flows with
here.
This,
exactly. It's relevant here as well. But let's summarize this episode. So basically, what appears to have happened is that the hack
hack
went through,
happened.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, they deleted all financial records for everybody at Evil Corp, which apparently just affects like banks all over the world, and so there's all these people who no longer owe money to anybody, and Elliot doesn't remember it.
Yep. He wakes up, I think, at the start of the episode in Terrell's car, and he's like, I don't know what happened.
He's been sleeping in an SUV for a few days, and but now the world's falling apart, right? That F Society is taking credit for the hack. Everybody's like, F Society. Of course. I mean, if they wiped out all the loan records, right? Now, of course, my critical thing, I looked at it and I was like, well, if they wiped out my mortgage, it's not like I would suddenly own the house.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's also like, so here's an interesting thing. So in that beginning scene, right, they show like an ATM with everyone crowded around it trying to withdraw cash.
Yeah.
I'm like, if they wiped out all your records,
yeah,
how do you even know how much money you have in the bank?
Right, yeah. So
to be able to withdraw.
I don't know what this would look like in real life, but they have wreaked complete and total havoc in the world. And we see three different sort of groups of people reacting to that, right? Mm-hmm. So you've got the guy that was the head. Was he evil? Who was the guy that did the news conference that ended up shooting himself?
He was like, I think the VP or SVP of engineering or something like that.
Okay. But of Evil Corp, right?
Yeah, of Evil Corp.
Yeah, okay. So that guy, he basically he just says,
he's like, I'm
"You're
ruined.
all screwed. I'm ruined," and then he shoots himself on live TV, and which I really could have done without. Like I didn't need to see it, right? They could have implied it, but anyway, and maybe I'm a little extra sensitive to that with recent events, news. But
yes.
But the and then we get
that's one.
Yeah, that's one. And then we get, what is his name?
Gideon.
No. Oh yeah, okay. Well, that's a number. Yeah. So we get Gideon, who is in charge of AllSafe, and we see him meeting with his part-time CFO, which I thought was interesting given the size of the company. But as your part-time CFO and friend, I got to tell you, you're screwed. Like it's time. It's time to start telling. You were the company who was supposed to protect the company who just got hacked, and the world is completely screwed. You as a business are over, right? Yeah,
you should shut down. You have enough money for like 3 months, and that's it. You might as well turn and throw in the towel.
Well give people notice. And then we have Philip, which I guess is like he's the CEO of Evil Corp, and he doesn't seem bothered at all, which was really interesting. And Angela is like, why is that? Why do you? And he's like, look, I've got this giant corporation behind me, and when you've got a giant corporation, you'll be fine.
Nothing matters. Yeah.
Nothing matters, and basically he's worth hundreds of millions he's probably getting a salary of hundreds of millions of dollars a year, and he's like, look, whatever happens, I'll be fine, right? And then we do see a couple of reveals at the end there. One reveal is that he says they know who did this. Yep. So we assume that means they know it's Elliot. And then also we see B.D. Wong as a person. He's now dressed as a man, right? The first time we see B.D. Wong, he is White Rose, and he is I'm guessing a trans woman. That's what it appeared, or as opposed to just someone in drag. But now we see him dressed, as a man, and presenting as a man, and he basically what did he say? I don't remember what was his big.
He wanted to basically get access to diamonds, a diamond mine.
Oh, that's right. He wanted to know about this mine, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But what we see here with the reveal there, if you're paying attention and you realize that B.D. Wong and B.D. Wong are the same person, and also there's the little thing with the watch, because you remember White Rose was very big on timing. And so we see, so White Rose is both on the outside and the inside. He's both like attacking Evil Corp, as well as he is a trusted person with the CEO of Evil Corp.
Yeah, because where he meets him is this like super fancy mansion. With people walking around with champagne, dimly lit, with the fireplace, like two seats for just them.
Smoke-filled rooms kind of thing, you know. I think if this was a different channel, well, I mean, it's Netflix, but you know, I don't know. I half expected to have like half naked women walking around in a place like that, right? But in this case, it was just, you know, they just had fully clothed people, but it was definitely a super exclusive, you know, what would you call that? A club? Super exclusive club. So he is clearly on the inside discussing diamond mines with Philip. So clearly, go ahead.
Yeah. And then there's another group that I think we forgot to mention. There's more than three, which is basically the F Society group, right? So Darlene and the hackers, right? And so they've pulled off the hack. They're tearing everything down. Elliot comes and then disappears. And I remember the scene where they're like, we got to get rid of all the equipment.
Yeah.
And so one of the guys they knows works at like a puppy euthanizing place is, I guess, the best way to put it. Where they have dogs.
Crematorium.
Yeah. They have a cage of dogs and they have an incinerator.
Yeah.
And they basically take all their equipment and they put it there and then they turn it on and the door is open and they're sitting there. I'm like, do they realize how hot that stuff gets? There is no way that they are standing with the doors open and it is burning their equipment.
That was definitely a movie scene, right?
Yes.
And I've just got to say, it's a really dumb way to get rid of. I mean, it's both, like, in some sense, it would be like I would think that you would do a combination of things. You might do like a shredding, and then that, right?
Well, they did drill the hard drives before this.
Drilling is not shredding.
I know,
right?
I know.
There's a famous case, by the way. Speaking of, data recovery and, one of the topics that we cover, there was like this mini series that I watched on something years ago. And there's this famous case that involved a floppy. And they, for some reason, and the floppy was like the evidence of this guy that had done some really horrific stuff. And the FBI had him in an interrogation room. I'm pretty sure it was the FBI. Somebody had him in the interrogation room. And they got the floppy like in their hand. And they're like, we've got you, like dead to rights. And the guy, and for some reason, there's also some pinking shears on the table. Yeah. And this guy reaches down, grabs the pinking shears, and he goes, right? And he cuts it all up. And they're all like, what just happened? He destroys the evidence in front of them, right?
Yeah.
And this was very early days of this sort of thing, but this is where the FBI definitely got involved, and it was the FBI's nascent forensics team, digital forensics team, and they used some what at that time was like cutting edge software to identify the tracks and piece them
virtually
together.
Stitch it together.
Yeah, and they managed to recover the data. And of course I'm thinking, as a backup guy, I'm like, they took the original of the thing, not like a picture of the floppy or a copy of the floppy. They took the actual floppy. And speaking of data loss, and I think we've covered the episode, but just before we go on to the commentary, there's a very big data loss story in the news today. Did you hear about this?
No, which one?
A very prominent musician had their assistant car was broken into and laptops were stolen, and they have recovered. They have apprehended the thief, but they have not apprehended the laptops. And the laptops contain unreleased music that apparently is only on these laptops.
Oh no.
It's just a little tiny musician. You may have heard of her.
Taylor Swift?
Beyoncé.
Oh. That would have been my second guess.
Yeah. So Beyonce's newest album may be delayed. What would be really sort of funny, I don't know is the right word, is if the thief just sort of
posted it online.
Well, no, like just sold them to to some like pawn shop, some fence. And he's like, I don't know, I got $100 to some guy on the street corner, and he has no idea who has the laptop. So now there's somebody who has millions and millions of dollars of data with no copy.
Well, and the question will be, because by default, most systems these days encrypt their drives.
Yeah.
Right? If you get a Mac, if you get a Windows, right? Typically, you are using some sort of disk-level encryption. Maybe they did not even know what was on there because most people probably have a login and password.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, it's not that they could steal the data. I'm just saying that he might not have any idea where it is what I'm saying.
No, or he might not have even known what he had with him on those laptops. Yeah. Right? Because he just probably broke into some random person's car because he saw 2 laptops sitting there or whatever, and he's like, oh, I could get $300 for these. And it turns out you could have gotten $100 million for them.
Yeah. Yeah. That actually happened to us one time when I had, when I used to had Truth in IT, and we used to travel around the country to do seminars. And I had 2 theft incidents. One was my daughter left my garage door open. And I had 2, what were those things? What are the cases? The equipment
Pelican cases?
Yeah. 2 Pelican cases of thousands of dollars of equipment sitting in my garage, and they disappeared. I had that. But also when we were out on a seminar, and it was the night before, I remember it was Houston. I even remember the restaurant that we went to. And we went inside, we came out, and it was smash and grab. They had hit our windows, and because we had, like Maroons, we had stored our laptops in the back seat.
Yep.
And boom, 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 they hit it, and they were gone. But unlike Beyonce, those laptops were just essentially remote copies of the actual data.
And I was going to ask you, did you back up your laptops?
Yeah. Well, my laptop, like now.
Yeah.
My laptop doesn't have anything. Like if it has anything, it's a cached
local
copy
cache.
of the stuff that's up in the cloud, right? So my laptop could Can
I ask you another question?
Sure.
So I'm going to play Ask Mr. Backup 30 questions.
That's a lot of questions, but go ahead.
So, okay. So you don't have anything on your laptop because it's a local cache.
Right.
Everything's in the cloud.
Right.
How do you back up your data in the cloud?
Well, I use iDrive. Not iDrive. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Wait, is it called iDrive?
Yep. It is called iDrive.
Yeah. I use iDrive. We covered that in an episode. I looked at, a number of the choices out there. There are a handful that do a variety of things, right? And what I wanted it to include my phone. I wanted it to back up my pictures and videos, and I wanted it to back up my email, and I also wanted to back up anything that happened to be on my laptop, which is really not really anything, and also my Google account, and all of that is handled by iDrive. With one. So
good job.
Well, thank you.
A+ for you.
Yeah. There are ways to do all of that with other solutions, but it's one solution that I found that did all of it for a very affordable price. And
I like the pain of doing it myself, so that's what I do.
And there's nothing wrong with that, right? So what I wanted to talk about we started to touch on it on a previous episode, and then I decided to actually cut that out. Is this idea that if you have a cyber attack, you really should notify people, right? Depending on who was affected by the cyber attack, you may be legally required to notify. I know, for example, here in California, that if you have a cyber event of some sort, that basically if personal data of customers that live in California is affected, then you are required to notify them. The law says within a reasonable amount of time. It doesn't define reasonable, but
and I think the same thing applies for healthcare records in the U.S., where they have to notify for any personal health information. There's an article I just read, or I browsed a headline this morning. China is now requiring 1 hour notification for cyber incidences.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow. That's impressive. Interesting. I think a lot of people wouldn't even know. I guess it's within 1 hour after you know. But yeah, and GDPR as well, right? And the Canada has for some reason I said Canada. Canada has data privacy, regulations as well. Whether you're required to do so legally, I think that you're morally required to, number one. And number two, I think it's an imperative from a business perspective that there's a part in the show where there's the scene from an episode or two ago where Gideon is in Tyrell's office and he's talking about it. Tyrell is complimenting Gideon on his transparency, and as this is happening, Gideon is getting notifications on his phone that something's going down.
Get back to the office. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course he's not saying anything, right? And then he goes back, and his first reaction was, "If this gets out, we're through," right? And that was really a foreshadow of what would ultimately happen. But I think that is, that may be a natural reaction, a human reaction, is if we can keep this from getting public, then it'll be better for us.
But I think part of it is also people look at this as almost taboo, right? It's, I was attacked, I got caught, I got suckered into this, it's my fault, I did something wrong. Therefore, they look at it as, it's unacceptable and it's bad, therefore I don't want to talk about it, versus we should all be talking about it, because that's how you find common patterns. That's how you sort of get the collective knowledge increase, so then people are able to protect themselves more broadly rather than all of these individual siloed issues.
Yeah, agreed. So basically, just to finish off my thought, I understand why, your logic of well, they're ashamed, right? They're ashamed. And also I think that some people, whether they're ashamed or not, they think that maybe if they can prevent this event from becoming public, that their company will be better off in the long term. And that is what I really want to advise against, right? Because, go ahead.
And that better off is both from a shareholder value, right? Because, hey, if shareholders find out I was attacked, my stock's going to plummet.
Right.
Or it could also be from public perception. Because they were hacked, I'm never going to buy anything from them. I'm never going to do business with them. I don't trust them with my data.
Yeah. And maybe if we'd have gone back 20 years ago when a hack, there were 1 or 2 hacks a year, that maybe might have been the case back then. But I think now, I think most people, at least people in the know, realize that anybody can get hacked. I mean, RSA was hacked, for goodness sakes. SolarWinds was attacked. In fact, the bigger name you are, and the more you're known for that sort of thing. And of course, LastPass, right, was attacked. And I'd like to just sort of use those as examples, right? So here's the thing. I think the shame element you shouldn't. I mean, you you can't say don't feel shame, but I don't think you should be worried about that as much. I think you should be worried more about what how it will be perceived if you don't come out with it, right? And it ultimately comes out, right? It reminds me. I've been listening again to the Hamilton soundtrack, and when Burr and Jefferson go to Hamilton and they fill him in on what they know about this scandal, that and he basically said, look, I'm going to show you that yes, I did. I'm going to fill you in on everything that happened. Mm-hmm. If I do that, will you leave me alone if I show you that I didn't steal public funds? And he fills them in on what happened, which was that he was blackmailed by a man whose wife he was having an affair with. But at the end, after he does all that, they're like, "Oh, okay. So I guess we're not going to reveal this because it's not what we thought." Yeah. And there's this moment where he says to Burr, he says, "So how am I going to know that you're not going to use this against me?" And he's like, "Well, rumors only grow, and we both know what we know, right?" And so these things do ultimately come out. And so I think that that's the primary reason. If for no other reason, legal or moral or whatever reason, the primary reason is that it will ultimately come out anyway. Yeah. And how your organization responds to it will be judged.
What is it? One person knows a secret, two people it's too many? Isn't there a quote like that?
So that sounds about right. Yeah.
But here's another thing though. Okay, so let's take the shame aspect out, right?
Yeah.
It will eventually come out. Is there also this sort of perception that like we've talked about with Mike Saylor, right, who's been on the podcast a bunch of times, it takes time to do these investigations, to really figure out, like, how did they get in? What did they take? What was their motivation, right? All of these things take time, right? And so could it also be a case that people are waiting till they have enough information to actually talk about things rather than, oh, I was attacked, now I need to tell people, but I don't have any information or enough information, and therefore it looks bad?
I think, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I think the best thing you can do is to notify immediately, like they talked about in China. Something is going on. My favorite way, and I've seen this happen in multiple companies. My favorite way is to have a web page. Mm-hmm. Here's the web page of the status of what's going on, and you have a scrolling timeline of here's what we know now, here's what we've been able to rule out, here's what we've identified is at risk. I think that the moment you say, listen, there is something going on. Just all you got to do is follow this website. You could sign up on an RSS feed. You could sign up for email notifications, whatever. I think the more you communicate like that, and the more you make it easy for people to get the story directly from you, I think the better that you are. The earlier you do it, and the easier you make it for them to get status updates. Yeah. Even if there aren't any status updates, and so if there aren't any status updates, you make some, right? Yeah. I don't mean you make it up. You just say, listen, it's been 12 hours. We're still working. We don't have any more information than we had 12 hours ago. Yeah. Whatever. By the way, 12 hours is probably too long, but yeah.
So I don't know if you're currently aware, as we're recording this episode, there is a very large automotive company in the middle of a ransomware attack, and they've shut down their operations. Do you know what company that is?
No, I don't.
Jaguar Land Rover.
Really?
Yep.
I actually did not know that.
Yep. They are currently in the middle of trying to recover. I think it's been a couple of weeks from a ransomware attack.
Well, that said, I'm never buying another Jaguar. Yeah.
But I haven't followed up to see what sort of notifications they've made or anything else like that. So
right. But I think that early and often, I can't stress that enough, is that don't try to hide it. And also don't lie. Please don't lie. Yeah. Don't say we definitely know that no customer records were involved or whatever. You can you can do that thing that they all say, like, We do not yet have any evidence that customer records.
Yep.
Right. There is no evidence yet that customer records were involved or whatever.
Do you remember for LastPass hack where they stole the vaults?
Yes.
Right. Do you remember if they said, as of this moment, we don't think that any customer data was accessed? Or I thought it was actually vaults were not accessed.
What I recall was that they said something along the lines of it would be highly improbable for them to use the stolen information because it was encrypted. And then we found out later that, they used the stolen information because there were definitely a bunch of attacks that were linked to the fact that they were, and
so you said, you should publish things on a web page, a central web page where people can go to get updated status. And we know these things take time. So as you do it, you're going to bring updates, right? You're probably going to cover things like how long it'll take for you to recover and be operational, what services or products or feature.
Once you know that information.
Yes, once you know that information.
Don't make stuff up.
Yes. But then also like products and features, right? What is currently available? What is in the middle of being recovered? What has been recovered? Right? What is still offline? Because there will be different parts of your environment that is coming up at different points in time as you're recovering from this attack. So those also become important in the notification.
Yeah, absolutely. The different parts of the organization. Here's what works. Here's what doesn't work. Here's what you can do right now as a mitigation, thing. Right? I'm thinking about this wasn't a cyber event, but it was a snafu. It was an employee error, and this was Salesforce, where they ended up opening up the permissions so that everybody in every org could see every record, right? And I was very disappointed in their response. This wasn't a cyber attack, but I was very disappointed in their response because their response was basically, you go fix it. Here, hopefully you have a sandbox or something. Hopefully you have a backup. Good luck with that. They have the data, right? What we knew about Salesforce at the time was they had a copy of your data, and they charged you $10,000 to get that data. And it was like a 2-week.
I thought it was longer than a 2-week SLO.
Yeah, it was and it
really wasn't even guaranteed.
And it wasn't guaranteed, right? It was horrible. Like, it was bad, But I think this was a scenario where they could have, should have. They should have figured out how to script their way into goodness and to just, to just fix it. The fact that they put it on the onus on the customers really bugged me. But
here's a question. So, along with notification, right, there's the investigation, they're publishing information. Eventually, everything wraps up. They sort of do root cause analysis, right? They look for how to remediate future issues. Is there anything else, like, after everything is recovered, is there other things that the company should notify the public about to either instill confidence that this was sort of a one-time thing, or that they've taken steps to ensure it doesn't happen again, or anything else that is normally not considered part of notification, right? But it's kind of a follow.
Yeah, I think all of those things, right? What have you done to ensure that this particular event will not happen again? I think about the LastPass attack, and I think about the what's the single sign-on company?
Okta.
I think about the Okta hack, and they're like, okay, we figured out what happened there. We plugged that hole, right?
Yep.
LastPass. They did a mea culpa. LastPass. I just think they just did. It was one of those where it was like a death of 1,000 cuts. They just kept like changing the story. That's a lesson in how not to notify, right?
Or Rackspace. right?
Yeah,
with
Rackspace,
their online exchange.
Now their thing was I thought they were okay with notification. Their problem was that they made a business decision very quickly to switch over to 365. And by switching over to 365, they were hosted Exchange. By switching over to 365, they made if you migrated over to 365, you were now functioning, right? They took care of that, but you didn't have access to your old data, and getting access to your old data took months, right? I think they made perhaps a premature decision to do that.
So let's talk about that specific aspect, because I think consumers and the public may have unrealistic expectations around how quickly they can get access to their data, right? So what, in your opinion, would be reasonable? Like, should they wait a year? Should they expect their data to be back within a day? Yeah. Right? Like, where is the spectrum, and like what influences how long they should wait?
Yeah. I think
because we all have unrealistic expectations, right?
Yeah, I think I can't give you an answer that's going to apply across the board.
No, I want an answer.
Yeah, I think it's going to be based on the business criticality of the thing that we're talking about, right? In some sense, what Rackspace did was good. They got their customers up and running. They let them start to communicate again. That took the pressure off of the thing. The problem was that what they did after, right? That they didn't, because they made that decision, they didn't have a plan to get the data back in there. They should, and they put it on the customers.
Yeah.
They said, okay, we've recovered your, and it took weeks for them to recover the old exchange data.
And I thought that they also had never tested that approach, the mechanism for doing that restore.
They had never tested that approach. That is absolutely true, right? So so let Rackspace be a lesson.
Yep.
Think about the worst case scenario. What would we have to do to get things up and running right away? Which in many cases may be to basically have a virgin environment that's functional, but you don't have access to your old data while we figure out how to give you access to your old data.
Yeah.
I think that if you do that, you take the pressure off, right? But again, you need to make sure that you test that alternative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and so I think it goes both ways, right? It's that companies should make sure they're doing notifications when they have issues.
Mm-hmm.
End users, the public, should also be patient, right? Don't just jump on them all over the place and be like, oh, they're awful, right? They're trying to do the best that they can, and just wait for those updates. Don't go on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it and just start blasting a company as they're in the middle of trying to recover your data, because it will take some time.
That's easy to say when it's consumers. But when it's your business and your business relies on that tool, and that tool has been down for 3 weeks, it's really hard to swallow that statement.
And that's why I think that, like you said, there is a spectrum, right? It's how critical is it, and are there certain pieces of the functionality you can bring online quicker to get people some functionality back while you work on the rest, and just communicating throughout the process.
This is something that this is a conversation you should be having now.
Yeah.
Right. And you should say, what would we do? What would we do if the thing that we do goes offline? What would we do to help our customers, right?
Yeah. It's as a perfect example. Remember 3 weekends ago, Curtis, you were out and your service stopped working, your cellular service, right?
Yeah.
And you were like,
by the way, my son-in-law, Verizon went down for multiple hours. My son-in-law works at Verizon, and he had a really bad day because people come in and they're just screaming at him, Yeah, nothing was working. Yep. We rely so much on cell service now, right?
Yep.
Like I can't get into my car, right?
You can.
No, I just meant,
Yeah.
Yeah. But if my phone's dead though, because I have a year, when I first had my car, I went to the movies and my battery was really low, and I went in the movie and then my battery died while I was in the movie. Then I came out and I couldn't get into my car
because you didn't have your key card.
Because I didn't. My key card was in my wallet. My wallet was at the house, and I wasn't used to making sure that I had it with me.
So your watch can also unlock your car now.
I wasn't wearing my watch either. Okay.
No, but now it does, is what I'm saying.
Okay. Even if the phone's not dead or phone's not there. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
It uses your watch, and you just need to make sure you set everything up ahead of time. So you should probably do that.
Yeah, I should probably look into that.
Yeah.
Of course. I don't currently have my watch on. I went for my walk this morning, and for some reason, I knocked my watch off the charger last night. So when I woke up this morning, it was only half charged. Anyway. But yeah, don't think you're going to hide it. Notify early, notify often, notify continually as to what you know, what you don't yet know, what the customer can do in the meantime to get back up and running, and and an ETA. And if you don't have an ETA, don't make one up. I don't know how many times I got to say, don't make stuff up. Right?
And make sure that your employees know that too, because if someone calls in, you don't want them telling something different than what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we finished this towards the end, and that is, you should, whatever you're going to do, you should have tested this already. Yeah. You should have tested, especially some sort of system to get your customers functional while you figure out the rest. Yep. I mean, because we don't all have the luxury that Jaguar and Jaguar, what is it? Jaguar Land Rover. Yep. Basically, they're going to be financially hurt, but their customers are fine.
Yep.
Right.
They have inventory.
There may be some impacts, but the fact that they're not able to manufacture cars for even 2 months, the customers will be slightly inconvenienced because they can't get a new Jaguar. But it's not like all the Jaguars go offline.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
would be really bad.
At least
like
not
what happened
today.
Again, like what happened to Mr. Robot. It's not like that.
At least today. But with systems becoming more interconnected, Curtis,
it is a possibility, right? Then we'd have a completely different discussion. There's actually a great Doctor Who episode, and what was it? Axia? What was the EMC product? Axiom? I can't remember what it was. There was a product, and it's like Axios, something like that. There was an EMC product back when EMC was a thing. You remember EMC?
I remember EMC.
Anyway, when EMC was a thing, there was a product, and I'm pretty sure it was called Axios. And when that was a product, there was an episode of Doctor Who where all of the smart cars started driving people off cliffs. The smart car's name was Axios.
Oh.
Whatever the name was, and I'm pretty sure it was Axios, but whatever the product name of the EMC product. What?
Atmos.
Atmos. That's it. Atmos.
Yeah.
The cars in the Doctor Who episode were Atmos cars, and they were just driving people off cliffs. I was like, ooh, that's gotta hurt the brand. Yeah. All right. Well, it's been fun. We put an end to Doctor Who. We put an end to Mr. Robot season 1. We're going to watch a few episodes because I've already seen season 2, episode 1. Not impressed with what we've been doing so far. We may just sort of change what we're doing, change how we cover it. But I hope you guys.
But if you like,
yeah, go ahead.
But if you like this format, if you like what we're doing, talking about episodes, leave us a comment on YouTube. Let us know what you think of the series.
Yeah. If you think it's crap, if you're like, stop talking about Mr. Robot. You know what I think we should do? I think we should cover some other maybe interesting cyber stuff. I'd like coverage of sneakers, for example. We've talked about sneakers a lot. I'd like a coverage of sneakers. That is a great.
What about
show.
Hackers?
Oh my God, Hackers is so stupid. I mean, there's a very
Swordfish?
young, very pretty Angelina Jolie in there, and that's pretty much the
Swordfish.
The only value. Same. Again, young, beautiful woman, but not much else from a.
What's the other one? Source Code.
I don't remember Source Code.
I think it's supposed to be he steals code. Maybe we can do an episode on Leverage or multiple episodes on Leverage. Since they seem to always be doing some sort of hacking and conning.
I've never seen that.
Or White Collar.
White Collars, yeah. We've watched. My wife's a big White Collar fan. She's in love with Matthew Palmer.
Yes.
Although zero chance because he plays for the other team.
Yep.
But you can.
Did you know there's a reboot?
No, really?
Of White Collar
reboot? Yep. Really? Oh. And speaking of my wife's heartthrobs, rest in peace, Robert Redford. 89 years old. He was one good-looking dude, and he made a lot of great movies, and may he rest in peace. All right. Well, thanks, Prasanna.
No,
you and your gorgeous shirt.
I know. Look at that. Yeah.
Right.
This was a good series, Curtis. I think.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
And thanks to our listeners. That is. The Backup Wrap-Up is written, recorded, and produced by me, W. Curtis Preston. If you need backup or DR consulting, content generation, or expert witness work, check out backupcentral.com. You can also find links for my O'Reilly books on the same website. Remember, this is an independent podcast, and any opinions that you hear are those of the speaker and not necessarily an employer. Thanks for listening.